I'm honored to be here today to speak to you guys about the few important issues regarding uh, several things, actually. Um, the biggest thing on our minds today is protesting. A few things we have to be mindful of and thoughtful of. First Amendment, Fourth Amendment, and Fifth Amendment issues. First Amendment, we have the right to assemble. You know, we can protest. We can go and stand on the side of the road and hold protest in what we believe in. We have the right to do that per the United States Constitution. We have the right to assembly. And we also we have the right freedom of association. You know, a lot of people ask me, they'll say, well, are we guilty by association? Well, sometimes so, sometimes not. Just because you associate with someone at a protest and they get arrested, you know, a lot of times that looks bad, but you know, you were there just like they were. They violated the law, you didn't. You have to know your parameters. You have to know the laws. If you'll look at your pamphlet that you have here, the First Amendment's, of course, the advisory note, freedom of assembly, freedom of association. We just spoke of that. Be familiar with laws such as loitering, excess noise, and criminal trespassing. You know that you can't be on private property when you're doing this. Normally there's free speech zones. You know, that's our third note there. Make sure before we do this that there's not free speech zone areas that we have to abide by. You know, another thing is what's our Fourth Amendment issues? Unreasonable searches and seizures. You know, when we're out there assembling and associating with different individuals, different groups. You know, does law enforcement have the right just to come up and search us? The answer to that is no. They do not have that right. You have to give them reasonable suspicion. You know, they got to have probable cause. They can do a Terry pat if you give them that reasonable suspicion or probable cause. You know, they can come up and pat you down. You know, if you're acting, if you're being forceful with someone, if you're violating the laws, that attracts attention to you. So be mindful of that. Don't attract attention to yourself, you know, when you're doing these type things. You know, you can get your point across the correct way without drawing unnecessary attention. And you know, if law enforcement does come up and they do ask you anything, you know, there's nothing wrong with answering the questions. But also remember, we'll move on to the Fifth Amendment advice here. You know, the Fifth Amendment allows us protection against self-incrimination. Don't incriminate yourself. Just general questions. You know, answer general questions. Do not incriminate yourself. You know, there's a lot of things that we can do. You know, it's all over the internet. It's all over the news. Especially what's going on today with the Confederate flag. People have their different opinions on that. But if we look back, there's lots of Supreme Court decisions that in reference to that very same issue, and we won't really get into that. But you know, I'm just glad that you guys asked me to come and talk to you today, because you know, it's this tax that we're talking about, the sugar tax. You know, we can go about voicing our opinions on that without violating the laws and being protected against the Fifth Amendment and the the Fourth Amendment, searches and seizures. You know, and we have the right to freedom of assembly. We have the right to freedom of expression. You know, we can do those things, but to be able to do those things, you have got to know the laws, and you have to remember there's more than one set. There's state laws, you know, there's federal laws, there's also municipalities that have city ordinances that you have to be very careful of, especially a lot of these protests happen in the city. You know, most of the time they do. And you have to keep in mind that there is city ordinances against certain things. So know your laws. You know, get out there. You know, assemble, express what you believe. Be mindful of the Fourth Amendment, the unreasonable searches and seizures. Be mindful of those things. Be mindful of all those things. Don't incriminate yourself. You know, a lot of people will do that. Do not do that. You know, we all have due process, and the Fifth Amendment allows us that. You know, just be mindful of those things. And again, thank you for letting me come and talk to you guys today. And it was an honor and privilege that you would ask me to come and speak to you. If you need anything else, you can feel free to let me know. And I greatly appreciate the opportunity to speak to you today. Good luck on the sugar tax. Thank you.